Welcome back into Buccaneers Total Access. First half of the show, we had head coach Todd Bowles. Now I'm so excited to be joined by offensive coordinator Liam Coen. Liam, thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Casey, for having me on.
Yeah, and congrats. I mean, what a win for so many reasons. Tell me what the emotions of that game were like for you guys with playoffs on the line, division on the line, Mike Evans' streak on the line. There was a lot happening.
There was. It was a wild one. I mean, this was a game you'll probably never forget as a coach, being a part of, especially the ending, obviously, with Mike, clinching the division, the emotions that come with that. But it was a struggle. It was a struggle for a while there. They had a good defensive plan, did some things that we weren't really prepared for, different things that they had done. We really had to adjust on the fly within the game, and the guys just stayed with it. Baker played his tail off, which he's been doing for the last few weeks now for us, and the guys just did a great job finishing that one out.
Tell me about the discussions around getting Mike his 1,000. And, of course, it would have been so convenient if this game didn't matter at all or we were up by 50. But to have the season on the line and something like this on the line, what were the discussions going into the game and then in that moment towards the end of the game?
Well, going into it, we knew we were playing this team for the second time this year. We had a lot of success the first game. It wasn't going to be as easy as just, hey, let's take care of what we need to do and get him his 1,000. We knew that wasn't going to be the way the game was going to go, although we would have liked it to happen. It being a little bit more stressful and anxious for us being at the end, we just wanted to get it done for him. We really did. For the last couple of drives, you're trying to seal the game while also get them this number. And then to be able to get the ball back from the defense and have that moment where we were absolutely going to throw it to him and not take the knee, that was pretty cool to watch.
How much pressure did you feel, both in the idea of just getting him this number, but also in that play, what is at stake there of not kneeling it out? What was your heart doing?
It wasn't the pressure to get it to him as much as, well, when he's really involved in our offense and playing well, we're typically having success on offense. So those two things come hand in hand to begin with. To want to get it for him was just more of the person that he is, the guy that he is. You want to do that for him. And there's some real nerves there where you're calling a pass play in a situation that nobody would if they were actually really trying to win that football game. You take a knee and you end the game. But that wasn't what Coach Bowles wanted to do. That wasn't what we all wanted to do for Mike, and got that one done.
I love that. And then now also let's talk about Jalen McMillan. His 32 and 33-yard catches towards the end there, one for that touchdown. Tell us a little bit about those plays. What stands out to you about him and Baker in those two plays and what they ended up meaning to the game at the time?
Huge plays for us. J-Mac's just continuously taking the next steps each and every week, really since the bye week. This guy has come into this building in OTAs, minicamp, training camp, and have made a ton of plays. Really cool to see him be able to continue to do this and stay the course. Baker and he have always had a really good connection. From the moment that J-Mac came in this building, those two formed a connection, and it's starting to continue to take on. And in those moments, to make those plays on a 4th and 8 critical moment, then get the penalty thereafter, a few plays later, make a sideline toe drag swag catch in a critical moment with an unbelievable play by Baker. So great for those guys to have that moment, especially J-Mac being a rookie.
Yeah, that was his 7th touchdown in 5 games, which is now tied with Mike Evans and Jimmy Giles for the most in a 5-game span in team history. 5 straight games with a receiving touchdown is the second longest streak by a rookie in NFL history, behind just Randy Moss.
Wow.
Not too shabby.
Wow.
And then I think about even the mental side of this, of that penalty between the plays, and to be able to gather himself again and then score. Looking at for how much rookies mentally becomes part of it. What have you seen in the growth in that area? Knowing he always had the physical skills, what have you seen on the mental side?
Huge growth. There was a time there that J-Mac, had to look himself in the mirror a little bit and say, hey, this is how I want to go with my career and with this team and for my teammates and coaches and for himself. And really a ton of credit to J-Mac and for Coach B-Mac continuing staying with him and really continuing to guide him throughout this process. So to make those plays in those critical moments, to get the penalty, Todd just took him aside, kind of explained to him the situation. J-Mac knew. He ran up and apologized after the play, and a few plays later goes out and makes a critical catch to really seal the game. So really fun to watch his development over the last few weeks.
And then I know Payne Durham with another touchdown, Devin Culp, couple big catches. These two guys have just stepped up in such a big way these last couple weeks with Cade Otton being out with the injury. What do you feel like has let the two of them be ready in these moments? What had they done to earn your trust, Baker's trust in these moments?
Well, Payne specifically has always been one of the guys in the rooms, in the meeting rooms, at the walkthroughs that's extremely diligent. Like, he wants to do everything right. He's very detail-oriented. I've always enjoyed the way that he plays the game. He has a love for it. He plays hard. He's a big target that can catch the football. So him stepping up is really not a ton of a surprise for us because of the way he's prepared and way Coach Justin Peel's worked with him with getting extra reps. And then Devin, it's taken a little bit longer, but as a rookie, you never know when your time's going to come. And that time has come. And he has stepped up to the plate and made some huge plays for our offense over the last few weeks. And you just hope to see his development continue to do this. And the future's bright for him.
And then we're talking to offensive coordinator Liam Coen. So Bucky, 89 yards rushing with a touchdown. I know definitely first half to second half, big difference in just, how long y'all were out there and the opportunities. But what did you see at halftime, and how were you guys able to really shift that game plan, get him so much more involved?
Yeah, I think in the first half, we had 3 possessions, one of those being a 3-and-out, I believe. And we just couldn't get in and going, really, in the first half. Credit to New Orleans. They did some good things. We weren't playing at our highest level. Knew that when we went in at the half. There was no panic. There was no flinch. We just kind of got together as a group. Baker really came out in the second half and led us down the field and had a good drive getting everybody involved. And, when Bucky touches the ball, we typically know good things happen. They got us on a few screens where we had them involved, and we just had, missed a block or two, and things didn't go our way. But really credit to those guys staying the course, and especially another rookie like Bucky continuing to make plays for our offense.
Yeah, he now has the second most yards from scrimmage and second most rushing touchdowns by a rookie running back in team history. And then this stat, the team now has a new single-season franchise record rushing yards.
Wow.
And you weren't here before this year. That was not the stat.
Right.
We were not number one in a lot of rushing categories. Explain how hard it is to make that big of a leap in any particular area of a game, and why you feel like you guys, your scheme, your coaching staff, these players, why was this the group that could make that kind of a stat possible?
I think you look at the NFL in general, and I think these guys know that you do have to run the football to win. You've got to be able to run the ball at least some to be able to win games, especially when you get into the playoffs, you get into the December football in the National Football League. It's hard. It's tough sledding if you become a little bit one-dimensional. And so I think that's what these guys understood, that they were good and they could take this thing from maybe good to great if we really dove into the process of it, everybody being all in, all 11 involved in the run game, how much more we've put on these guys' plates from a mental standpoint. They've all taken it on, and you can see the results, which is pretty cool to see.
Did you know when you guys were scouting and looking for the draft and bringing in these guys, did you know, or when did you know Bucky had the chance to be this special?
You talk to his coaches at Oregon. I got close with his offensive coordinator there, and man, everybody just said phenomenal things about him. So you knew, or at least you had a thought process that, okay, he can make people miss in space. He's got a burst. He's got good hands. And he's a great kid that's going to come in and do everything that you ask him to do. Well, fast forward, you don't really get a great look at that in the spring because we're playing touch football.
Yeah, every run's a touchdown.
Every run, right. So you just don't have that feel until probably Cincinnati, the first preseason game where we go right down the field on the second drive of the game, and he has a great run, a couple good ones, and you could see the burst and the acceleration. And through training camp, he was making some plays, and as the thing went, he continued to get better.
What are the things that separate him? Because every running back is trying to make people miss. Every running back is trying to have the good vision. Like, what is it that he does that you're like, this is why he's this special guy?
He's got very good contact balance, first of all, and the way he moves, he's such a good lateral mover because he's always under control. He may be appearing that he's running his fastest at all times, but he's not. He plays the game, I would say, at about like 85-90% speed, and then when he needs to go, he can go. And he just has that missability factor that a lot of guys do want in their game, but he has it. And he's here at 5 o'clock every morning. He's one of the last guys to leave the building every day. So he's put the time in and obviously has really, really high talent level to be able to do those things as well.
Yeah, that's got to be also pretty rare to have a rookie come in that is the guy that's first in, last out, and that does seem to know how to do things the right way. How big of a difference does that make even for you, knowing as the coordinator that here this running back is like he is putting in those hours and doing that? How interesting is that for you from even just a game plan standpoint?
It's great. He's around. He's asking questions about the plan. I mean, really, the whole room is very involved and extremely detail-oriented, but having a rookie be able to have those conversations, some of the ownership that he's had to take at times this season as well in some poor moments. And you look back at Atlanta on the fumble and some of those other times that he feels like he could have helped us win and we didn't. To have that accountability and ability to look in the mirror and criticize yourself in moments that are hard, that's not easy to do either, especially for a rookie. So extremely mature beyond his years and talented as well.
And then how do he and Rashad make a good tandem and a good team? What are the ways that having those two guys with unique, different skill sets set you up for success too?
Yeah, I think both different in their own ways, like you mentioned, but also similar where you can throw them the ball. They can make people miss in space. Rashad was unbelievable in pass protection yesterday. He had some big-time pickups for us. Yes, it doesn't show up in the stat column, but he did some great things for us yesterday, as he has throughout the entire year. And then Sean Tucker comes in, has some good runs for us as well. But it's a good room. It's a competitive room. And those guys are trying to continue to get better each and every week. And if one's not really doing it, the other guy thinks he can go do it. So that's what you want, competition.
And then, of course, neither of them could do anything without that offensive line.
Yeah.
And those guys have just been incredible this season. Tell us what stands out to you about that group, both run game, pass pro, and just what they've enabled you to do as well.
Yeah, really proud of that group. Great coaches with Kevin Carbs and Brian Picucci in that room. They've done a really nice job of the details, the fundamentals, the techniques. It started when we first got here. Those guys bought in, I thought, fairly quickly up front. And they're just the best guys. You know, those are the most accountable. They do things right all the time. They care about it, you know, probably more than most. And they don't get a lot of recognition for it. And that's just the job. That's who they are. But our guys kind of embody that. And that's what's really cool about that group, because they know it takes all 11, but we go as they go. And when we're playing really well up front, typically we're having success on offense.
All right, we're going to take a quick break here on Buccaneers Total Access. We're going to have more with offensive coordinator Liam Coen, brought to you by Advent Health. This is Buccaneers Radio. Welcome back into Buccaneers Total Access. We've got offensive coordinator Liam Coen here with us. All right, so I'm going to throw some stats at you here. You guys have set the single-season franchise record in completion percentage, passer rating, yards per rush, rushing first downs, rushing yards, third down conversion rate, and third down conversions. All of those. This season, the Bucs became the first team in NFL history to complete 70% of their passes and average over 5 yards per carry throughout the course of an entire season. How does it feel to hear those numbers? I remember I had you on week 1 with this show, and now here we are after the last regular season game. Your first year as coordinator here. To hear those numbers, what does that feel like?
You're proud of the way, because when we first got here, we talked about our tape is our resume. And that's what we are. And that's what we're going to put on tape is truly who we are this season. And through ups and downs, and it wasn't always perfect by any means, which is why you coach. It's why you want to keep doing. Yes, you can win, but it's process over results in a lot of ways. And how do we continue to improve week out? I thought our guys did a phenomenal job with that. These guys bought in pretty quickly when we first got here as a staff, and credit to them. They're the ones doing it. They're the ones playing. They're the ones putting this thing on tape. And it's been a great year with a great staff, and got to keep rolling.
And then, man, Baker, definitely a big part of that. And now he has joined Tom Brady as the only quarterbacks in team history to throw for 40 touchdowns in a season. And Baker finished the season establishing new career highs for himself in completions, completion percentage, passing yards, net yards per pass attempt, passing touchdowns, passer rating. Like, it's just unbelievable, even not just looking at this offense here for us, but even Baker's career of what this season has been for him. So for you, when you hear that, what do those stats tell you about Baker and what he's meant to this team and the relationship you guys have and what you've been able to build?
Well, obviously, extremely talented human being, right? I mean, he's gifted. He can throw the football. He can play the game of football. He's an unbelievable leader. But, you know, when we got hired here and we dove into this system and we explained how much more is going to be on his plate from a mental standpoint moving forward for this operation to really go where we want it to go. And he took that head on and has studied his tail off week in and week out to put our team in a position to be successful every week. And, really cool to see his growth in terms of just on and off the field, becoming a father, becoming a true franchise quarterback again, and having his city really buy into the type of person that he is. That's everything that you want to see from one of your players.
Yeah, and let's talk about the type of person and player he is, that if you look at just the way he plays the game, how have you seen that impact the offense, even the defense, the team as a whole, of just the way he goes about it? And I thought about how after the game I saw everybody's taking pictures in the locker room with the NFC South champion shirts on, and the O-line's taking a picture, and of course Baker, they're all getting Baker to dive in there, and it just felt like that was so appropriate. He feels like an extension of an offensive lineman.
He is. Those are his best friends. I've said this before, he's an igniter, and that's just the way he plays the game, the way he competes, the way he leads. Those guys want to follow him. And when he slid on the ground the other day and things got a little messy, I'm assuming that was probably a little purpose there, to get things moving a little bit. And he knows his guys. He knows what makes people tick. He's a people person. He understands how to get people to get the most out of them, and that's what the great ones do. So he's a football player, man. That's what's really cool about him.
Yeah, and then thinking about that, of just the way he plays, and that I would love to hear for you how you view balancing his style of play with maybe a little safety thrown in there. How do you keep him being his crazy Baker self who wants to lower the shoulder and act like he's, Derrick Henry running people over here. But then also making sure he doesn't try to do too much of where there's interceptions or there's certain plays. That's got to be kind of a challenge on your part.
It is. He's the modern day Brett Favre.
Yeah. Which was his dream all the time, right? So he did it.
He's accomplished that. And as a coach, you have to lean into that and understand that that's who he is. That's how he plays. And that gives us a really good chance to win most games. Okay, how do you harness it, and how do you try to get him to play the game at his highest level, the way he wants to play? Because your truest self comes out on the field, and that's what you want for these guys. But ultimately, okay, how do we protect ourselves from from us sometimes? Us as coaches have to look into that. And for the most part, we've had some ups and downs with some of those things with the turnovers. But his production, the way he willed us to that game, yesterday, rushing for 68 yards, that none of those are really designed. One was, but it was the worst call of the game.
I love it. Well, I know we talk a lot about the idea of chemistry with maybe fellow offensive linemen or DBs or things like that, but I'm sure chemistry between a quarterback and the coordinator is also very important. How did you feel like you guys grew in that area, and when did you feel like you two were really able to be on that same page when it comes to the playbook and predicting what each other wants and needs?
Yeah, I think it takes a village. Really, with coaching the quarterback, it takes a village, and you look at Thad Lewis, Josh Grazard, Jordan Somerville, Tom Moore, myself. We're all involved in that process. And so if I'm not having dialogue with Baker, well, then, Thad is, and then Grizz is, and Coach Moore is. And so constantly being coached at all times. But our relationship, we had a prior one, and we did work well together for those weeks in L.A. Coming here early on this past winter, it was, hey, how can we be honest about how we can improve? Do you want to hear it for real, or do you want to hear the sugar-coated version? And he dove into it. He dove into how to improve and take this thing to the next level. And you see some of the stats that he's had this year. I'm not really one, and neither is he, to really dive into those things. But he's in some pretty elite company in some of those areas.
We're talking to offensive coordinator Liam Coen. So early in the season, you were just a blessed and highly favored man with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. And then you lost both of them.
Yeah.
Tell me, just what the offense was like and the ways that you felt really good about the ways you were employing those guys, and then what it meant for you to have to pivot hardcore after that to account for them being gone.
We were really kind of hitting our stride, actually, at that time, where you look at the New Orleans game, we come back, the Baltimore game, even though we ended up losing, we lost our two best guys, and we were starting to really kind of go where we wanted to go. And we were hitting a rhythm. We really we were building an identity. Well, things changed.
Yep.
And we did have to pivot a little bit as a staff and as a group. Got to a little bit more 21 pony, a little bit more 12 and bigger personnel groupings. to try to offset some of the depth at wide receiver. And then some of those wide receivers stepped up and made some big plays for us in some critical moments. So kind of a combination of different ways to pivot, but a lot of guys stepped up and made plays for us.
How do you feel like losing them challenged you and maybe made you better as an offensive coordinator?
Well, yeah, it made us become a little bit more creative. We could just call some, I don't want to say vanilla plays, but just more core philosophy install day 1 through 3 plays with Chris and Mike and the way things were moving because, well, man, they have to defend those guys. And it's more about, hey, how do we keep it simple for us but difficult on the defense? When we lost those guys, we did have to pivot that way and maybe get a little bit more creative in the run game and a little bit more gap schemes and different ways to kind of attack the defense. And we got through some of those tough times.
And then what was it about the way you were using Chris Godwin that you think was, he was basically having his best season in his career to this point.
Yeah,
what do you feel like you guys were doing well together and the way you used him?
I think moving him, naturally back to the slot and him having just confidence from that alone and being in this system that does a lot of times run through the F and a lot of targets go to the F, a lot of production goes to the F. And he was big in the run game and the screens, and he was so impactful to our offense that we lost a huge player in that game. And so having him maybe play a little bit less 11 and do more 12, 21, 13, but Chris he can run the choice routes, he can make decisions in routes, the option routes, the blocking in the run game. He was just a huge part of that puzzle and where it was going, and look forward to seeing him again.
And then Mike Evans, at this point in his career, at this age, explain to us how incredible it is what he's doing and some of the things it lets you do and dial up and call, even after coming off a hamstring injury, just the level of play he's at this year.
Well, he dictates so much coverage. I mean, he has seen so many different coverages. He understands it, but he also dictates it. And you can have a feel for what teams are going to do maybe just based on Mike Evans alone. And that helps you dictate the terms a little bit more offensively. And so you can know that he's going to be in a position to make plays when he does get one-on-one opportunity throws. And the way that he's blocked, though, the way that he's been a teammate, the competitor, to see that happen obviously was pretty special. But he's earned that. I mean, he's totally earned that. He really played in 13 games this year, if you really think about it. He missed 3, and he got hurt in the first or early second quarter of the Ravens game.
Yeah.
So he's missed some significant time and still was pretty damn productive for us.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we're going to take another break here on Buccaneers Total Access. We'll be back with more with offensive coordinator Liam Coen. Brought to you by Advent Health. This is Buccaneers Radio. Welcome back into Buccaneers Total Access. We have offensive coordinator Liam Coen here. Let's talk a little bit more about that offensive line. We know they deserve all the credit, so let's break down the individual guys here. So Graham Barton coming in as a rookie and having to move positions to a particularly challenging one. I have always said I think center is crazy, that you are like, I'm going to line up against the most giant, terrifying people. I don't even get to put my hands out right away. To see the way he's handled shifting to that position, and then also I'd love to hear about how he's handled some of the calls and all of the intellectual side of what he's asked to do as center.
Another guy that's just mature beyond his years, similar to Bucky and those guys that way, and came into this position like he's like, I'm going to play center. That's what he wanted to do. There was no really thoughts of doing otherwise, and that's coming from a guy that had not, like you said, played a lot of center in his college career. He's a tackle, started snapping again at pro day and at the combine, things like that. He came in here and again took this thing head on. I mean, it's not easy to play center in this offense, in this league, especially at that age. It's really like having a rookie quarterback in some ways because of the amount that really they have to process and be able to spit out live in a full speed moment. He's done a really nice job for us this year, and excited about his future.
And I know Cody Mauch, I've heard Coach Bowles say he feels like he might be one of the most improved players, and I've heard this from a few other people as well, that just his growth from last year to this year. What are the things that you've seen in him from either a mental and or physical side that have let him become a pretty elite guy now? Yeah,
I think Cody, did some nice things last year as well, like you guys mentioned, and you did see some improvement this year, a nice improvement where really credit to Cody because we did challenge him some this past offseason with really trying to trust and dive into the fundamentals and techniques in which we were trying to get kind of put across. And he was able, those guys that are able to kind of say, okay, this is best for me. this is best for me to be able to maybe do some different techniques and fundamentals and able to be vulnerable to be able to take that coaching. And he was able to do that, and he had a really nice year protecting the quarterback and in the run blocking.
And then Luke, I know another one that has been mentioned as potentially one of the more improved guys on the roster as well. And thinking about similar to Graham of having to move positions and already just as if the adjustment to the NFL isn't enough, then we're moving him here, there, and everywhere. And it just feels like a different version of him this year. What are some of the things that he does that we don't even always know to appreciate?
Man, he's been a mainstay over there for us. I mean, obviously was injured for a couple weeks there where we didn't have him. I don't know, 4 or 5 weeks, and comes back and just right away playing at a high level. And he hated to miss that time because there's not many guys that love football more than him. And really the whole process that goes into it, with the weightlifting, the eating, the film room, the study, all that stuff, the kind of guy that he is, he's just a football player. And those are the kind of guys you want protecting your quarterback, and he's done a really nice job this year with it.
Yeah, when he's complaining that 150-pound dumbbells aren't enough in the weight room, I feel like that's the kind of guy you want.
That is.
Ben Bredesen, I feel like, is a guy that has – we talk about the offensive line not getting a lot of attention. I feel like of the offensive line, he's really been the guy you don't hear as much about, but has been sort of an unsung hero in that way. What has he added to that left side of the line?
A ton of experience, veteran, the way that he approaches the game, the way that he prepares. Having a rookie center in there and being kind of put in between, Cody and Ben, man, those guys have really been able to help him out as well and make some calls with him and give him some tips and reminders, because Ben's played the position. He played center as well. So has done a great job for us this year, has really been a pleasure to coach. Somebody that's just level steady like this all the time, doesn't flinch, doesn't blink, and he plays his tail off.
We're talking to offensive coordinator Liam Coen. Let's talk a little bit more about Cade Otton. We mentioned the idea of what guys like Payne and them have done, Devin Culp, in his absence. But prior to his absence, I mean, it's just amazing how many snaps he plays, how much he does, that there are teams that have tight ends that are a little bit more one-trick pony. For him to be out there as much as he is, explain the role he's been able to play in your offense, and then especially when Mike and Chris went down, what he meant.
Yeah, Cade, coming off a year, as you mentioned, playing 98% of the snaps last year. We did want to supplement him some, but then we saw why they didn't, take him off the field much, was because he's really, really a darn good player. And I thought he did a great job. Justin Peel doing a great job taking him this year and really getting the run game going and getting him blocking in the run game. He did a nice job. And then he already had the pass catching skills. JVD worked with him last year and did a great job understanding the pass concepts, and that continued on into this year. And see him have one of the best years, I think, of his career receiving. And he took on that role. He took on that role when Chris and Mike went down, and it was 3rd and 7. We're going to throw the ball to Cade, and he stepped up, made some big-time plays for us. So really hoping we can get him back.
And then I know some of your other wide receivers, you got Sterling Shepard, Raheem Jarrett, Ryan Miller, Trey Palmer, that because of injuries, because of a lot of different situations, each of them has been asked to step in to some pretty big moments. What have they added to this team, and some of the ways that you've tried to find ways to use them in part of what you talked about of having to be more creative?
A tough group. A tough, resilient group that talk about a lot of guys in that room that weren't getting opportunities maybe in the last few years to play as much as they would have liked. They're earning opportunities through being undrafted and coming in playing special teams, and now getting an opportunity to go play and be, make impactful plays for us this season. Really, all of them have stepped up in different ways and made huge plays for us to be in the position that we're in right now. Brian McClendon has done a phenomenal job with that group and getting them on the right page and really coaching them the hardest I've ever seen a receiver coach. So he's done a phenomenal job of that group's really stayed the course. It's been fun to watch.
Now, we are hopefully playing football for a long time now, but now that we're at the end of the regular season, figured we'd do a little reflection with you, your first year here. Tell me what the biggest lessons you've learned as an offensive coordinator this year have been.
I think when you allow yourself to be your most genuine self, when you go into an atmosphere like this and an opportunity like this, and you just be yourself, and you allow yourself to fully dive into the process and work well with people and open it up to where this is truly, hey, collaborative effort. How can we do this together? and not just put it on all your own shoulders and take that. I think we've done a great job as a staff, being collaborative and coming together with a game plan each and every week. And you learn a lot. You learn so many different things each and every week, and but you really learn like this is a group effort, and the more you can do it with the guys on staff and with these players, the better off it's going to be.
What do you think you did best, if you're kind of thinking about the things you're most proud of yourself for, and what would that be?
Balance, I would think, being pretty balanced with both the run and the pass. Yeah. I think that ultimately we were able to, like you said, that statistic about 5 yards per carry and 70% completion. You're talking about being efficient, and with the quarterback throwing the ball like that and completing balls at that level, and then be able to run the football at that success rate. You're typically going to keep people off balance. So I think our guys did a great job, players and coaches alike, at creating well-rounded game plans to put as much stress on the defense as we could.
And then what would you say are the hardest parts of the job that the fans at home don't know to even appreciate or understand of how challenging it is?
Well, some defenses will say, this is what we do, this is how we do it, but most defenses change, right? They have game plan.
So rude.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, but it's game plan specific. You don't always know what you're going to walk into on the first snap of a game, that your plan can adjust and change really quickly, and we've got to be able to do that as a staff and kind of foresee maybe some of the issues that could arise and be able to adjust on the fly. Not everybody plays us the same, and so that's something that's a little bit of probably more of a challenge than people think. They're not truly just chess pieces. You do have to really kind of control them and move them. So I think that's probably something that maybe gets taken for granted a little bit.
So you're saying the Commanders aren't going to do exactly what they did week 1 against us?
I can't imagine so.
Yeah. So tell me, what did we learn from that first matchup, and then watching them over the course of the season and their growth and Jaden Daniels' growth, of maybe what could be similar, what could be different now?
Well, a ton of respect for their team, obviously. Bobby Wagner leading that group. I worked with him in Los Angeles and have a ton of respect for that group as a whole. And we played well the first time we played them. We didn't run it great. They kind of controlled the line of scrimmage a little bit more with us. We didn't have a true identity yet in the running game at that time. I thought we pass protected really well at the beginning of the season in that game, and I thought we did a nice job kind of working on third downs and scoring some points in the red zone. So this is a salty group. They're playing hard on defense, and we're going to have to play really well.
Well, Coach, thank you so much for taking out some time to talk to us. I know you are very busy game planning, so we really do appreciate it, and congratulations on a division win and going into the playoffs here.
Thanks, Casey. I appreciate it.
All right, that's going to do it for us on Buccaneers Total Access, brought to you by Advent Health. This is Buccaneers Radio.